All right, so you're going to begin your basic startup procedures with your interface and your I/O. And then you'll go File, Create New, or Command N. You're going to make a 44.1 32-bit float interleaved. Today will be class 4. So while you're getting into your new session, just make sure that you continue to, when you save and you create your put your session in a location that's continuously being saved in the folder that you created on the data drive, right? So just make sure you continue to do that. And then a couple of things. Let's see. I just have a couple of housekeeping items this morning to jam through. Number one, not everybody's here yet, but there was an update to the syllabus because of the some academic policies that needed to be added from the university. So this one's your update coming out. As far as our grading and all that stuff, nothing changed. As far as your typical assignment load, nothing changed. So yeah, you're going to create your new session with class 4. Raise your hand if you need any assistance. In addition to that, couple things. So I did send out an email about how to get free passes to the Vegas Music Summit. That is this week, Thursday and Friday, at the, I forgot where it was, the downtown, is it Downtown Grand? Basically what this is it's a series of panels in the day and showcases at night. The panels are of various types you can see on here. There's production tips from songwriters, producers, and engineers, Q&A with music video directors, some sort of streaming, paid subscription marketing, and then music branding on Thursday. And on Friday, what do we got? Friday, Songwriting and Publishing Workshop, how to get your music synced, a little bit about legal, and finding a manager if you're an artist or band. So depends on what aspect you're into. This could be really cool for you if you're an artist or songwriter or producer, if you want to go into music business as a manager or a promoter or talent buyer. These are really cool places to be. I'll just say that I've been at these, I've spoken at these. These are great events. It's usually a room. It's a ballroom, but I mean, there's probably no more than 60, 70 people in attendance, which is cool because after the panels, you can go and ask Q&A directly to anybody that you want to talk to from the panels. And you can see there's a whole list of, if you go to vegasmusicsummit.com, you'll see the speakers list. There's all sorts of people in the business that'll be there. But again, it's free. I sent out an email and it told you how to get the passes, so you can go on there, follow that email, and get free passes for the weekend. In addition to that, next week, there's a couple things going on I just wanted to let you guys know about. I'm going to leave these here. I don't have enough copies for all of you, so I'm just going to leave these here somewhere floating around. We have 2 things going on next week. Number one, on Tuesday of next week, we're going to be doing an info session about the music technology major in the recording studio. So we'll actually be in the recording studio on Tuesday at 1:30. Chuck and Gil, myself, will basically be talking about what the plans are for next fall, transitioning from having a music technology minor to now, hopefully having a major package deal for the fall. I know they started planning the classes and they're already on the schedule. I think they have a few more things that they have to logistically go through to have it like 100% approved, but we're really, really close. And right now they're planning as if it's happening. So they're going to make more announcements next week about how that looks and what to expect. If you guys are interested in that, or if you're interested in what the degree holds, or what kind of jobs you can get, or like what the plan is, like what we're trying to aim towards, if you're interested. That is at 1:30. Obviously, you can just come in, hang out, and leave at your leisure. It'll only be, I think, like a 30-minute session. After that, at 2 o'clock, SSL, Solid State Logic, will be here with their mobile recording studio truck. It's actually really rad. If you're not familiar with SSL, you can just type in Solid State Logic. You're going to see the highest end, the largest format studio recording consoles. These are all very, very pro industry level. So like all the major studios have some form of SSL product. But the truck actually comes in and it literally has a console in it. So you can go in and check it out. They'll talk about it and you can play around with the console and kind of get a bit of hands-on. That's from 2 to 5. At your leisure on next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow, 2 to 5, it's literally going to be parked out in front of the building. And they'll just be here from 2 to 5, taking groups in and just letting you ask questions and check it out. It's really, really pristine gear. So we're talking like, some of these consoles will be like 50 grand. Some of the consoles will be like 250 grand. Some of these consoles that they used to design in the 80s were going for like $1 million. So, you check out Solid State Logic. Again, I would search the web on it. There's a lot of cool stuff there. So, really cool week next week, doing both of those things. And actually, we're pretty much going to do the info session, and then basically roll on out to the truck and check it out. So, I'm going to I'll leave these floating around for you guys if you guys want to jot any of that stuff down. They'll be around. All right, so back to business. Questions so far? Nothing yet? All right, sign-in sheets around. Awesome. Yeah, let me... Perfect. Okay, so first thing we're going to talk about today... Thank you, sir. First thing we're going to talk about today... Let me get this timer going. You guys doing okay so far, right? You guys are picking up on this pretty well. First thing I want to talk about today is importing audio. So in your notes, you can just write in importing audio. Okay. Now you can import other things. So you can import MIDI, you can import video, you can do all that. But today we're going to focus on importing audio because we're going to want to use our audio to do some things today. Okay, so importing audio, step 1. Go to File, Import, Audio. Okay, now notice if you go to File and you see Import, there's other options. But for today, for importing audio, File, Import Audio. Now, let's take actually one pause on this. I will say this. There's two methods to importing your audio, and there's 2 reasons why you may elect to do one of these two methods. In one version, you import the audio, but it does not get copied to your media folder. The reason you may do that is if you're in a facility where the audio never moves, people are kind of confused by that. If you work for a post-production facility in LA, Hollywood, Burbank, audio that's generated from that location never leaves the building until it's licensed to do so. So like it's packaged and produced, like things like just imagine the effects from Star Wars, okay? Just the overall sound effects, the things from the movies. Those items are not released until the license is completed and the product is actually built as a package. Which means like no one's just taking files home and no one's just backing things up and throwing it in their car. It's not like we're in a regular studio. A lot of times when you're in a normal studio, people just back stuff up onto a drive, throw it in their car, go to the next studio, and have them do the mix. In these large facilities, nothing gets done or leaves the facility until the final product's done. And if they elect to have somebody else do a mix down, then it's a big deal and it's packaged in a certain way. Because of that, all the media has the option to actually just sit in the original media drive. So let's just say you were a sound designer or a sound effects engineer or whatever, and you built all these sound designs, you put them on your 5 terabyte drive, and they're located on the studio server somewhere in the server room. Those are all packaged and ready to go. So now when people are putting in effects for the films, they're just grabbing it out of the server, but they're not actually copying it to the local media because they don't need to, because it will always remain on the server side hard drive. And so they are not forced to copy new media in. It allows them to very fluidly be able to work with media at a faster speed without having to have the cumbersome use of copying it to the drive and then duplicating all that information. But in kind of at our level where we are, because we're not using server-side drives and we're not using that kind of technology most of the time, you're going to work here, and then if you want to take your work home, you have to be able to copy that media over somewhere very effectively. So what we have to do is we use the other method where everything we import to Pro Tools gets then saved into the project folder. Does that make sense? So in order to make sure that when we take that project folder somewhere, that folder contains everything we're ever going to need, right? So in order to do this, when we do our import audio, I'm just going to do a side step. This is what I'm actually going to do. I think I'm going to show you the steps to import audio. Then I'm going to go back to show you the steps to ensure that audio is being copied to your drive. And so before you actually do it, I will reverse the steps so that you're going to change the preferences first, and then you'll import audio. Does that make sense? So step 2 of this, of course, step 1 is selecting import audio. Step 2 of this, whoops, not MIDI. Step 2 of this will be actually selecting a piece of audio. So step 2, find and select audio. This is actually very simple, but let me show you a few things about what this does while we're here, just so you understand what you're looking at. Now, for today's example, you guys, I'm going to teach you how to search for audio. It's actually fairly simple, but in a normal instance, if you know where your audio is, it's just as simple as going to the drive locations where your audio resides. So if you knew your audio was on the data drive under your name, you're literally just going to choose it from the menu here and go find your name, right? And then go find your audio if you know exactly where it is. In this instance, I already have a session that has a bunch of audio in it, so I could go to the audio files and pluck out anything from here. So let's just say I do this, and let's see if I have something that's, let's see, solo. Okay, I'm going to choose this. Notice these in tags say L, and this in tag says R. What do you think that is? Left and right. Now, we talked about interleaves last week a little bit. The interleaving process makes one file out of multiple channels. Okay. Before the interleaving process, this session was actually created before the interleaving process. And even when you create your session, you can choose or elect to not interleave. When it's not interleaved, left and right will show up as 2 files. So in order to have a stereo file brought in, essentially you need both the left and the right separately. In this instance, they're like that. So I'm just going to select the 2 so I can bring them in and show them to you. So you're going to select them, all right? And then you're going to get a couple of options here. This is where it gets a little confusing, okay? And in one instance, it says add. In the other instance, it says copy. The difference here is if your system is set or designed to not force copy everything into the session, you then are given the option to either just add it to your session or copy it in, okay? In this instance, I want to teach you to always copy, okay, because of the way that you're working with media. If you elevate to using like network drives where you can do things like adding and not have to bog down the actual session, you'll be very aware of the option at that given time. So what we're going to have you do is select copy all. Now copy all really only is highlighted if you have multiple files. If it's just one file, it'll just be copy. So copy or copy all. So select copy or copy all. Now here's the thing. Everything is kind of weird. See where it says clips in current file on the left, and then on the right it says clips to import? If it's listed on this right-hand side, it's ready to go into the session, okay? If there's nothing there, even though you selected it up above and it's in the left, nothing's coming in when you hit OK. Now there's a lot of different options here, but the ones that we use most often are these preview options. You know, and you can turn this up or down. And you can fast forward it. You know, those are good tools. And you'll see here, if we look at it, it actually tells us what type of file it is, what the bit depth was, and what the sample rate was when it was created. How many channels are included as well. And then you can bring those in. The other thing about this is that I will note that this is not part of your steps, but just so you understand, if this file that we were trying to import did not match the session target, so like our session that we created was at what sample rate? 44.1. If the file we were trying to bring in was at 48K, there's a little bit of a difference that you would see in the listing, and it automatically changes for you. And instead of saying add or copy, it would say convert. Because in order to bring it into the session, it has to be converted to 44.1. Now, what happens if we have two items that are at different sample rates in the same session? Whatever the host sample rate is will be the playback speed of the samples, and the other item will just play at an irregular speed. It essentially will sound warbly and warped because it's going to play back at, unfortunately, at a different speed because of the resolution change. Does that make sense? So we're forced to convert it. In this instance, you don't see that, so you could very easily just hit done. So your next step after selecting copy or copy all is to hit done. What'll then happen, and this is real. To me, this has always been a weird thing. So you'll just hit done. It'll ask you where do you want to save the files. Now you're always notice it forced me into class 4 audio files folder. That's where we save the files typically, and we'll talk about file management very soon. But in the file management side, all of our files should always be on our session. So our session's class 4 in that folder, in the audio files folder. Does that make sense? That's our target destination. So it'll always do that for you typically by default, but just double check it just in case it accidentally does it wrong. And then you can hit open. It's always been weird that it says open. To me, it should just say save. But once you hit open, here you are. Your final step. It'll ask you where do you want the audio to be imported. Now remember on our talk last week, oops. Oh, it won't let me to do it too. In our talk last week, actually, let me hit this so you can see it. You're going to select at this point new track and hit OK. But notice it says clip list, new track, and then it says different locations other than just a session start. In most cases, you'll bring it to session start. But let me show you this window. Last week we talked about the clips list. Do you remember this clips list conversation a little bit we had last week? You actually can elect. Your clips list will hold all the media for your session. You can elect to bring it over there before you actually put it in the timeline, which means that if you wanted to bring it in, put it in the timeline later, or maybe choose exactly where the timeline should be, you could actually do it that way. One of the good keys that we use for that is when we're doing spotting sessions, if we're matching effects to post-production. Like, let's say we had a video and we knew that, someone in this video, a clip or something like that, someone's about to, break a window, okay? So they break a window, and we have to actually time out where that actual frame is where the window essentially breaks. Instead of just importing the audio, we would import it to the actual edit window. We would actually bring it over here to the clip list. We would find where the frame where the glass breaks, and we'd be able to drag the clip over and tell it where to land if we know where the timing is. Unfortunately, we can't do that directly from the import window. So that's why we would want to take it to clips list first. Sometimes you also don't know what clip you want. Sometimes you're bringing in a bunch of different effects and you're not sure which one will work. Or a bunch of different, maybe you're using samples, you have kicks and snares. You're not sure which one works for your session, so you're going to bring in maybe 10 different ones, drop them in the clip list, and just kind of flip them back and forth and sort them out. You'll see if I were to drag from the clip list, I have the option of dragging that clip into the already established track, or if I drop it below, it'll actually create a new one, so you could keep creating new ones by just dragging them. Oops. Okay. Now, in order for you to do what we're going to do in the step-by-step, because you don't already have pre-established audio that you're looking for, the one additional step I'm going to add, so if you can go to your step where it says select audio, and just on the side, add to that step, search, period, WAV, and select file name matches .wav. So when you go to actually find, for you, because you should be able to find a ton of audio on your computer there, just go ahead and type into the search.wav. And when you do that step, after you find a piece of audio, I want you to preview it. So the next step for this is preview by just selecting and push play. Because there's lots of stuff in here. Once you find something you like, after you find it, then you can go ahead and hit copy. And then you can hit done. Okay, so basically you're going to preview it, select it, and then continue the rest of the steps. Does that make sense? So what I'd like for you to do, essentially is insert that into your grouping, in terms of your grouping. Now, before we do this step, here's that second part that I wanted to talk to you about. So in this section, go ahead and write in, you can put preferences, copying all imports to session. So preferences, and under the heading, you can just add this at the bottom. Preferences, copying all imports to session. So this is how you ensure in the preference menu that you can copy all the imports. So preferences, copy all imports to session. You're going to go to Pro Tools. This is a little different. So you're going to go to Pro Tools, Preferences. Pro Tools, first step, go to Pro Tools, Preferences. And it's underneath the Pro Tools menu over here. So Pro Tools, Preferences. Select the Processing tab. And then after selecting, so select the Processing tab is step 2. Step 3, you're going to choose where it says automatically copy files on import. It's this little guy right here. You're going to choose automatically copy files on import. This just ensures that no matter what you do, you always copy to the session. Here's what's weird about this, okay? So you're going to select this option just to make sure that no matter what, you're always copying to the session, okay? Then you can hit, actually you don't have to hit anything. I think you can just close it. Yeah, because I don't think, oh yeah, you just hit OK. Hit OK, you're done, okay? Here's the thing. You guys are probably very familiar with drag and drop. You guys ever heard of drag and drop? You can drag and drop all day in Pro Tools. The problem with drag and drop is if your session's not set to copy, a lot of people will drag and drop. This happens all the time. Oh yeah, I dragged all these files in, and then I took that session, copied it onto my hard drive, went home, and nothing was in there. Because drag and drop has to be forced to automatically copy files on import. Otherwise, it won't copy in there. What it'll do is it'll resource all those files in an index system based upon their original location. Does that make sense? It'll just use their hierarchy file information and be directed to wherever they were originally put onto the computer. Meaning they'll always stay locally. If you take that session and try to go home with it, you won't be able to take that file with you. Does that make sense? So you want to ensure that the files are copied on import. Okay, now what we're going to do is in your drill, you're going to do this preference step first and then go to importing audio. Here's the catch, okay? The catch is you only do this once, okay? So when you repeat your drill, you don't have to go back and do this again and again and again. It's important that you know where this is. On your home system, like this is what I do. On my first time I install or update Pro Tools, I go through my preferences and I make sure some of these things are selected that I like for me. Set them up once, never touch it again. You know what I mean? In the lifetime of the software, it'll always stay. Does that make sense? So you're going to do this one time, and then all the drills that follow, you're only going to do the import step. Cool? All right, let's go. So let's start by completing this step in the preference menu. And once you're done, go ahead and move on to importing a piece of audio. Raise your hand if you get stuck. You can use your notes. And if you're unfamiliar, that search window is at the top right of that import window. If you're looking for where to type in the .wav extension. show me your hand if you're done. You're done. Done. Yes. Oh. It must have been level. Oh. Oh, that's weird. Why is this one? Shoot. We can't even reach in there. There's nothing. Let's see here. Do you mind if I just jump in there?
When you do multiple files, do you want to say this is a new track or put them
Yes.
first?
Yeah, you can go ahead. For now, we're going to put them to new track. Now, the cool part about this is you probably noticed you could import as many files as you really want. You can import a batch of of files all at once, which is great. Just so you know, Pro Tools has a maximum track count that's allowed to be used for certain levels of Pro Tools. So like Pro Tools HD, depending on how many HD cards, you can have up to like 960 tracks or something like that. For the Pro Tools standard level, typically it's 96 tracks. So although you can import as many as you'd like, if you import more than 100, you're not able to import them. You can import them to new track, but they won't all be active at the same time. So when you're dealing with a lot of files at one time, it's just one of those things you have to look at. Let's go ahead and do it again. Do it again from your notes. Start actually by, actually, you know what? You can just keep what you have. That's fine. If you want to keep what you have, I would just don't push play with both of them active because you might get some interesting results. But just go through. You don't have to do your preference steps again. Just do your import steps. What did your warning dialog say?
Oh, I moved my folder.
Oh.
To pull the same ones.
Oh, okay. Not too hard, right? It's just a series of steps. All right, so everybody's pretty much good there. Hanif, what's that dialogue say?
It says one or more of the files you selected have a different sample rate.
Oh, okay, so instead of hitting add, you need to hit convert. Let's see, what is the question it's actually asking at the end? Do you want? Yeah, hit no. At the bottom, hit copy all. And hit remove all real quick. Remove all, hit copy all, hit done and see if it still gives you, okay, there you go, got it. Yeah, because that should force it to the transition. And then you can just hit open there, and then you should be good. Everybody's done, right? All right, so let's go ahead and kick this off from memory real quick. So no notes, this should be fairly simple. So same thing, no notes, just jam through it. We'll do it twice. So the first time for accuracy, the second time for both accuracy and speed. everybody done? I need for you. You were done, right? Or were you just?
Yeah.
Okay, so this time it's going to be timed. Go ahead and begin. $16, 20, 24, 26, 27, 28, 36. Obviously, it depends on how long you took to look or preview your audio as well. Everybody done that? That's everybody, right? Okay, so not too bad, right? Not too bad. Okay, now what we're going to do next. So actually, let me talk to you about this just real quick, and then we're going to move on, and then we'll come back to some of this. Okay. With the method that you just saw, that is the fastest, easiest way to import audio. But one of the issues with importing audio in that format is oftentimes you don't get any sense of what, especially if it's music, what kind of tempo is being used in the actual audio as it's coming in, which means mapping it out to a tempo in Pro Tools becomes a little cumbersome. It's doable. It's very doable. There's a couple different methods for it, but there's an easier way if you're looking to import for tempo purposes. But the downside to it is it's more complex. Okay, so that is the easy way to import. And I'll say the easiest way to import, of course, is to just drag and drop. But dragging and dropping doesn't give you the ability to actually look through files or sort through files. And of course, it doesn't necessarily give you the ability to preview in that kind of format. So in your notes, let's see. I don't know what to title this one. Okay, in your notes, title this, Importing Audio Using Workspace Browser. So this is kind of the next level of the import. Importing audio using Workspace Browser. All right, so just eyes up and watch what happens here. Importing audio using Workspace Browser. So what you're going to do is step one, go to Window. Step 2, select New Workspace. Step 1, go to Window. Step 2, select New Workspace. Now, Step 3, choose. This is why it's more complex, because this drops you off at the highest level of the hierarchy of the system. So Step 3 is going to be choose the drive that the audio belongs on. So you're going to choose whatever the target or the resource drive that really. So in this instance, you may or may not know that, but you can see we have the data drive, which has all those listings, and then there's the Mac drive. So you're going to choose your drive. Step 4, select audio. So after you find your audio, let's say I'm going to go to my folder. And go back to sessions, go back in, and here's my audio. Let's just say I choose this one. All right, what step number are we on? Step 5, okay. What we get to do here with the audio in the workspace browser is a little different. And what we're able to see is information about the original tempo, and we can actually force the piece of audio to be fixed to the session tempo. So here you're going to have a couple different branches. Branch number 1, and let's see, I don't know why this is doing. Oh, yeah. Hold on one sec. Okay. Step number 5, scroll to the right, find the tempo in the tempo column. Now, a lot of these, what they have to do in order to locate the tempo is they have to have some sort of information in the file about the tempo itself. So like, let's just say I went to the session that I know, and see how the tempo field here is actually clear. If I type in, let me go and type in .wav. In this folder. And let's see if actually, you know what? Let me try this. I'm going to type in drum loop. Okay. Now, it depends on what you're looking for here, but oh man, a lot of these are missing them. Most often, loops that are prepackaged as loops, like the kind of loops that you'll see in like GarageBand and Logic, will always carry their tempo information. And then what you can also see here is, you can see this BPM equals 120 right here. What you also get here a lot of times is if you find the actual original session, the session will show the tempo mode. But in the next branch, what we'll do is, if no tempo exists, or if you want to force the tempo to your tempo, step 6 will be to select this little metronome icon. And there's another way to do it. You can either select the metronome icon up here, or you can go over here off to the right in the menu, this little drop-down menu that says audio files conform to session tempo. So right now my session tempo, if I go look at my session tempo, it's listed up here in my rulers column. It says BPM equals 120. You see that here? So if you wanted to bring in a bunch of loops and automatically have them match your tempo, what you can do is either select the metronome or go to that menu system and tell it conform to tempo, and then you can go find your files. Now for some reason, oh okay, there it goes at the back. Let's see if I can find one of these loops. Those aren't loops. Oops, spelled loop wrong. That's probably why I didn't have great results. Okay, so here's one down here. And notice there's a little speaker icon in the preview. In your next step, select preview by choosing the little speaker icon by the waveform here. And again, it's the reason we would preview these in this format is we're trying to figure out if this is something we would want in our session. So I'm actually going to go back to so I'm going to do a new search to see if I can find something else. Yeah, there's not a lot of loops in here, but this one will do. So basically what you will do at the point at which you've elected to force the tempo, if you like the pattern, like I think I might choose this one. If you drag and drop it into the session from the workspace browser, it will automatically be brought in the format of the tempo. Only if it had been selected in that. So your next step is drag and drop to new track. Now, you'll notice this is when someone had a question last week about the difference between samples and ticks. And this is when ticks become important. The reason we need to do this is because what I'm going to show you next is going to be some use of the grid mode. So in that final step, what I'd like for you to do is drag and drop and then save. Okay? Save is Command S. Now we haven't really necessarily had the need for this, but at your final step, select Save, Command S. Now I will say this, although I don't, let me see if I can show this to you. I don't know if I can lift this. Oop. Maybe not. If you take your thumb and you put it on Command, and you take your index finger and you put it on S, this position, once you actually start doing real work in Pro Tools, other than just our drills, which we've done so far, as soon as you start working with content and the edits that we're going to start talking about in the coming weeks, Command S is something that needs to be force of habit after every move. Okay? Every good move. You screw something up, don't say it, right?
Command Z.
Yeah, exactly, Command Z, which is undo. And we'll get there. We'll go through some of those for you guys. But essentially, Command S, after you complete a step, Command S. After you complete a step, Command S. Pro Tools is designed to auto backup. And in the preference menu, you can tell it how much time between auto backups. The problem is that a lot of people prefer to turn auto backups off because auto backups tend to bog down the DSP of the system, which means you could be in the midst of a recording something and have a DSP error because while you're recording, the auto backup came through. Or while you were doing a bounce out or a render, the auto backup came through. So a lot of people in the pro level, a lot of times we just deactivate it altogether. Why? Because we're going to go Command S after every move anyway. The auto backups, though, don't save you because most auto backups are either set to be 5 minutes apart or 10 minutes apart. And you see how many seconds it took you to import a piece of audio? For most of you, it was less than 30 seconds. You know what I mean? So if you think about that, 30 seconds, and your autosaves are 10 minutes apart, technically you could make up to 20 different moves, probably, or more, especially when you get into chopping drums or chopping edits and doing a lot of copy-paste, duplicating, things like that. You could be way down the road, and then having to go back to an autosave from 10 minutes ago is very painful. It'll only take you 10 minutes to recover, but what if you were being very creative and you couldn't? Like, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. Behind the glass, you have a vocalist that just did the most outstanding performance they ever did of their life. And the computer freezes. And that's normal. The computer freezes. Right? And it froze after that take was done, but before you hit Command S, right? All of a sudden, now that take has to be redone. So, just a very important thing for you. I know we're just learning this now. After everything that you do that is important, hit Command S. Okay? It doesn't autosave for you in anything but typically 10-minute increments. And how you would know, Pro Tools, Preferences, sorry. And let's see there, where is the mechanism? Auto backup. This one's set to 5 minutes. That must be the default. Keep the 10 most recent session backups. In most cases, you are in control of your session, so hopefully you won't need it. We're going to go ahead and go through these steps real quick because I want you to have, what I'd like for you to have is some sort of pattern-based instrument. So what I'd like for you to elect to do in the workspace browser steps is to choose to conform to tempo. So you're basically going to open the workspace browser, find a piece of audio, make sure you hit the conform to tempo or that metronome button, drag and drop it in. That's it. Pretty simple. Cool? But it needs to be something pattern-based, so not like a gunshot or somebody punching something. It needs to be something pattern-based. So some sort of drum loop, it could be guitar loop, it could be any of those things. You just need something pattern-based. Does that make sense? And today's flying. If you're looking for file extensions, also note that you could also look for .aiff as well as .wave. .wave. Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, which window does audio fall into?
Okay, well, you're in the right spot. You're just looking at the highest level of, so you'd have to open up those drives. But in the search window, what you can do right now is just type in like drums or loop or something like that, or .wave. If you type in .wave, you have to cycle through all of them. So if you're looking for something pattern-based, you might want to just search for some sort of guitar loop. All the systems are different, so unfortunately, like there's different files on everybody's computer. But that's kind of the uniqueness of this opportunity. Is it gives you the opportunity to search for stuff. If you don't see anything, also look at where it says, search in, and then it says class 4 at the very top. You want to make sure it's see across the gray right there, a little higher. Move your cursor right there in that bar, yeah, to the right. Keep going over to your right. No, keep going the other way.
Oh.
There you go, right there. See where it says search in class 4?
Yeah.
So your search, you need to select on the left. Click volumes, and then make sure, and then hit enter again in the search box, or return, because it was searching it. Yeah, it needs to search all volumes versus you were searching your own session somehow that way. Yeah, so just be careful where you're at the very top of that window. It'll say what you're searching in, so just make sure you're searching for in the volumes or the hard drives versus something else. Yours works okay? Awesome. Okay. Yours is good? Okay. Yeah, sit tight if you get there, or you can mess around with it if you get there. Just let me know that it worked.
Nothing's popping up.
Okay, so you're searching volume. Oh, nothing under drums. Okay, let's try the loop. Type in loop. See if you get in there. If no results exist there, you could try. Yeah, it's not done searching yet, but it's. Results. You might want to just type in WAV. Yeah, but by now it should have something. I just back up and type in WAV. Well, hit return again. Return, yeah. You know what? Stop it for a second and then hit return. I don't know if it's having trouble. Let's try this. You should have waves on it. Back up, maybe do AIFF. Select the data drive. You know what? Close it and reopen it because it's not even showing any information in there. Yeah, give it a second. Give it a second. That might be the issue. If it goes down, well, actually, you know what? I'd give it like 60 seconds. If it does not respond, I would right click on the icon down here. It'll say you're not responding, as you give an option for force quit. then you can force quit and reopen and get back into your session. If it doesn't allow you to do it there, go to Apple. There's a force quit option there. It's like a hard force quit, and you can choose out of that selection to the list of show Pro Tools. But yeah, give it like another 30 seconds. If it doesn't resolve itself, you can probably jump back in. All right, everybody good? Did everybody get through it? Anybody have issues with it? I mean, obviously, searching is probably the hardest part, right? Finding something on there right now is the hardest part. In the future, I'm going to start slinging you files, but this is kind of great because this is twofold, and it's really nice to have you guys learn how to search for information on your drives. Because you can see it's a little more complex in this view, having to navigate which volumes and such. Yes?
Well, where do you drag it to?
When you drag it to your left, into the edit window, no, a little further left, so it's in the edit window behind, yeah, that window that's back there, yeah, and down into that open void, and then let it go. You know, the only other issue is if you're not dragging an audio file, it won't respond. Go back to that window, you should see it up again. Oh, it's because that's a session file. That, yeah, it needs to have an extension WAV or AIFF. And you'll know it. See the speaker icon in the middle of the lane? Yeah, like that, yeah, exactly. That. Then when you drag that in, same spot. There we go. Yeah, success.
It worked.
Oh, it did, finally.
Well, I had to force quit.
Oh, okay. Oh, and hey, look, now you have stuff in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Actually, we have time enough to do that. Let's do that one more time. Let's do that process one more time. Have you guys do that one more time. Try to do it off without your notes. Try to do it one more time without looking at your notes from memory if you can. Try to commit this stuff to memory. Again, it's just repetition, repetition, repetition. Don't forget before you drag and drop it in, and I see, just because you've installed, don't forget to force to conform to tempo. Don't forget to force conform to tempo. You notice when you opened up your workspace browser again, it doesn't have it automatically selected, so you have to go back and reactivate it. All right. Anybody still working on that? Everybody got that in? We're going to move on to the last thing here, and it's twofold. We need to talk a little bit about what our tools are and how they work. And in order to do this best, we needed a piece of audio to kind of help us out. Okay. So now you have audio in your session. More than likely on Wednesday, I want you to save this session so that on Wednesday we can come back to this audio and we can work from it as well. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the navigational elements. At the very top in the edit window, so make sure you hit Command equals and you're seeing the edit window, this one that you see on screen with the actual files. You notice there's a bunch of information across the top. Well, two things that are most important when you're working with edits, of course, are going to be how zoomed in or zoomed out you are, And then, of course, where you are in the timeline. You may not have noticed this, but we have something called the universe. And you barely notice it because it's not really, you don't have a lot of tracks. But it's this little area right here. It's got these little lines in it. The universe allows us to see where we are in the session in a very short area, and then we can kind of toggle between it. And you can see there's a starting marker. Right now it doesn't show much because I'm not zoomed in, but if I zoom in, you'll see, oh, this is where I am in the session. This is the thing that gets added to. You guys seen the new MacBook Pros with the little TFT display icon up at the top, where now you can scroll through stuff? That's what would be visible if you're using Pro Tools as a navigational item, because then you could just go forward and back in your edit window. But it's just literally the exact same thing. It's just kind of a short scroll option. Well, let's talk about some stuff that you're going to need to know right away. First of all, write this down. This is going to be a little bit of a jumble of notes, but these are all the important ones, and then we'll eventually go back through all the other options. Double-clicking magnifying glass. So put in double-click magnifying glass. Essentially, this is your magnifying or zoom tool, or I should say, it's your zoom tool is what it's called. But double-click magnifying glass / zoom tool. So double-click the magnifying glass or the zoom tool. Essentially, what that does is it expands your view so that the only thing that it shows is the most zoomed out version of the duration of the audio. So like John Michael, right? James Michael, sorry, but does that blue waveform continue on down the line beyond where you see? It does, right? Okay, so double click your zoom tool, your magnifying glass. So what it just did is it made it so that it pulls it out in the view so you can see it at the farthest most, but not beyond it. Does that make sense? So go ahead and double click your zoom tool. Just a real quick tap tap. And for some of you who were zoomed out, so like I know yours did. What was your name again? Kylie. So yours actually zoomed in because your files are really not all that long. So when you double click that, essentially it's going to show you a real quick, easy, just everything that's right there, but it's not going to go too far beyond it, so that essentially you're only looking at the stuff that's in the session. Because that timeline, what you might not know is the timeline goes on for miles after that. It's just kind of infinite, although you're not using it. So to zoom in and to zoom out, write this in your notes, please. Zooming in and zooming out. And let me actually bring this to full scope here. Zooming in and zooming out is actually done by this little tool over here. And actually you can use the zoom tool. This is the zoom tool. Problem with the zoom tool, you tap it. Notice that it shows a plus sign right now in the tool. If you hold Option, it'll do a zoom out. I'm not a huge fan of this because it takes a bunch of clicks to do. They actually have a fast zoom that I prefer you use, which is right here and right here. Zoom in, zoom out. Make sense? So there are your zoom tools. You might just want to draw an image of that. Zoom in, zoom out. The other thing you can do, there are other options you can do with the zoom tool. You can do what's called a single zoom, but we're not going to use it just yet. We're going to go more in depth on that zoom capability soon. The other thing we see here is in this is actually called the zoom panel right here. Waveform zoom. So I would write this in, waveform zoom. Or they call it audio zoom. But I mean it's essentially, yeah, I guess you could call it audio zoom. That's fine. Audio zoom, waveform zoom, and MIDI zoom. So this one's audio zoom, this one's MIDI zoom. The difference here is, watch what happens. Now, and this is really critical to understanding. If you go up, all my audio looks like it gets blasted. See how big it is now? Those waveforms. If I go down, opposite effect. You see how that works? The reason you might do that is sometimes the audio is actually recorded so low that you can't really see the waveforms very well. So you want to zoom into the waveform height-wise to allow you to make certain edits. The same thing applies with MIDI, although we don't have MIDI in the session, so that's obviously not an issue at the moment. Okay, the next thing you see here is called zoom memory. All right, I would write it in zoom memory. These are actually pretty cool. These are basically zoom presets. But for you to save your own zoom preset, it's actually not too difficult. To recall, so this next, you can just write in the steps. To recall a zoom preset, choose numbers 1 through 5, any one of them. So if I choose number 5, it's going to go to a zoom preset, whatever this is. So to recall the preset, just choose a number. To program a preset, zoom where you want to be, how you want to be. So let's say we like the way this looks when it's zoomed in. To program a zoom preset, hold Command, hit the number. So if I want this to be preset number 1, I hold Command, hit number 1, you'll see it blink. So let me go to number 2, and then I can go back to number 1. You see that? These have to be done session by session. Although it'll transfer from session to session, the basic default standard. These are almost completely null and void unless you do them session by session. Because like right now, this might not be purposeful in the next session to have a zoom that looks like this. So a great example. Let's say I use my counter right now is in bars and beats. So let's say I want a 1-bar zoom. Okay, so I'm going to go to the beginning, and I'm going to zoom in so that all I see. I think I passed it. Or is it? Okay. Sorry, I might want to zoom in just a little bit more if I can. Okay, it's close. You can see there's bar 1, beat 1, and then there is. Oh wait, no, still too far. There it is. There's bar 2, beat 1. So if I save this preset by hitting Command to number 1, if I change my BPM in the next session, it doesn't count as a 1-bar zoom because the bars will be different. So you'd have to do these session to session. But these are very helpful if you want to have these shots. So one easy thing you could do real quickly is double-click the zoom like you did. Double-click the zoom tool so you're all the way out and hit Command 1 and program button number 1 to be your full zoom out for your session. Does that make sense? So that's your simple zoom out. And then you can zoom real tight in so you can see your waveforms and make that Command button 2. So program 1's all the way out. Program 2's all pretty tight. Yeah.
When I hit the magnifying glass, my view isn't stopped where the last audio is. Are you supposed to do that?
It's not. Which means that you may actually have something down there. An easy way to fix it would be to just use this the selection tool out of that area and hit delete. What you can do is the little wave. It's like a little waveform icon in the middle. Over to the right. There's one in the middle of that. Yeah. Go highlight beyond the yellow. See that yellow piece of audio? Yeah. Just grab it and drag the other way. Yeah. Same thing, but go the other way. Yeah. And then go all the way up. Yeah, there you go. Do the whole thing and just hit delete. Sometimes, it just thinks there's something there, and then hit your magnifying glass again and see if it. Yeah. There must have been something catching it somehow, but that does that sometimes. Okay, so. All right, real quick, we're just going to do a real quick. Oh, shoot, it's already 11:10. Shoot, we might not have time to do this. We'll have to do this on Wednesday. On Wednesday, we're going to go through more tool sets. Now that you have your audio imported, what I would do is make sure you save it for one. Everybody did the preference menu system where you actually went into the preferences and you told it to copy all imported items today, right? You guys did that, copy imported audio? All right, so let's, on a clean sheet of paper real quick, let's just do some quizzing, huh? Couple questions for you, and then we'll jam. And on Wednesday, we'll get more into the tools. There's a lot of tool options. It's quite busy. Okay, so today you learned 2 different types of importing audio. One of them was file import, and the other one was using the workspace browser. Which one of those 2 allows you to conform the tempo? Question number 2, everybody get question number 1? Question number 2, if the sample rate is not the same as the target session, what needs to be done in order to import it? Question number 3, name me 2 file extensions that you searched for today that are audio file extensions. You should definitely know the first one because I know you used it, but I mentioned the second one today as a secondary option for 2 file extensions for audio that we could use. And what was this, number 4? Question number 4, what is the hotkey for saving? And question number 5, what do you do to program Zoom in those presets? How do you program Zoom in the presets? How do you program Zoom in the presets? Just a few little steps. Now, I will say the one that you use constantly, that double click on the Zoom tool, you will constantly be using that. So get comfortable with it. It's a quick, easy double click. So if you didn't put it in your notes, make sure you add that to your notes. All right, question 1, what was the answer?
Workspace.
Workspace browser, yeah. Number 2, what was the answer? Convert. You have to convert it. Like Hanif, you had that dialogue warning, you saw it. The reason it'll actually allow you to bring it in, but it won't work correctly. Okay. Number 3, what was the answer?
Wave and AIF.
Okay, wave and AIFF. Okay. And number 4, Command S. That's super simple, right? Command S. It's going to save your bacon. And then number 5. What did you have to do to save the preset? First of all, you had to set your zoom to what you wanted it to be, and then you hit Command.
And then click one of the numbers.
Exactly. Click one of those numbers, right? Click one of the presets. It'll save it. If you didn't get that, you want to make sure your notes had that in there. It'll be very important. Again, double-clicking the Zoom tool is very important. Being able to import this audio will be very important. On Wednesday, we're going to go and start using this session. So save the session. Make sure it's there with that audio. That way on Wednesday we can pick up and we can jam with these tool types. We're going to do tool types and we'll need to do the edit modes. By next week we should be recording some audio, so we're on track. Questions? You guys have any questions, thoughts, ideas? No? Okay. Awesome. I will see you guys on Wednesday.
I actually do have a question about
Yes, sir.
this. I won't be able to. I have class during this time.
Okay.
So, where's like the best place to find info on anything on UNLV?
You know, actually, let me give you the information on Wednesday because we just started a Facebook for the music technology program and and a Twitter, and I think on the Facebook page we may announce some of this, and I'm hoping we can actually record this session. So So if I get video of the session, just the info that they have to talk about, I will post that to Facebook, at least the links you can gain access to. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's 'cause
Yeah, because it won't be on the website. I mean, the classes are supposed to be up on the schedule, but the schedule's not released yet. It won't be on the website until 100% complete. So at least this update, you'll be able to get info from if I can get it on video.
Definitely, yeah, because I went to
Good job today.
at
Yeah.
TSN. I did.
Everybody signed in, right? Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I did the program at TSN, and now I just want to see what
Yeah.
we have here. So.
Yeah, that's great. What do they have there? Is it a
It's just-
certificate?
yeah, it's just a certificate.
So you already completed it, is what you're saying.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
yeah, just doing this class as a refresher because it's been like 2 years. But
Fantastic.
have a good day.
Yeah, you too, man. That's cool. I'll keep you posted.
For sure.